Well, Commonwealth Bank is backtracking on dozens of job cuts, with the company saying this morning that it made a mistake and workers can now stay in their jobs if they want. The bank was planning to axe 45 customer service roles as it rolled out an AI-powered voice bot. For more on this story, I'm joined now by Julia Angrisano from the Financial Services Union. Good morning, Julia.
Good morning.
So CBA was saying that it was going to reduce call volumes and make these workers redundant, but you say that this decision had the opposite happen. Talk us through what happened.
That's right. Our members told us a very different story to what CBA was laying out. And what they were saying was that actually call volumes were rising and that management was having to scramble and to ask workers to perform extra shifts and overtime. They were having to pull team leaders onto the phones. And so our members were saying, we can't see how the introduction of this voice bot is actually going to manage what is an increasing call volume.
Was saying at the time that this would reduce work needed, but actually managing the bots increase the amount of work.
That's right. And I think part of the issue here is that CBA just weren't transparent about how they were making decisions to replace these jobs with that voice bot. How were these workers going to be replaced? What was that call volume going to look like? How did they make that assessment? And essentially, how did they choose these 45 workers? And so because the bank had refused to be transparent about those call volumes, it's the reason we initiated that dispute. And I think it was that pressure that resulted in this decision yesterday, where CBA has now said we've made a mistake and they've backflipped on cutting those jobs.
So you just noted there that your union raised a dispute in the Fair Work Commission. Is this still going ahead, and what are you looking for now?
We are still in dispute with the Commonwealth Bank about this decision. I think what we still don't have any clarity around is on what basis did the bank determine that these jobs were no longer required, and why were these particular individuals selected? And really what we want to understand is what were the alternatives that the bank had considered to redundancies? How were they actually going to mitigate against those job losses? And it comes to the heart of this issue around AI. What efforts did the bank go to think about the upskilling that these impacted workers would need to enable them to perform other roles and to stay employed with the bank?
So with the bank now saying it made this decision in error and staff can stay on in their jobs or pursue other jobs at the bank or take redundancies, what do you think those workers will do? Are they staying in their roles?
Well, look, it's a really big concession, and it is a very big win for those workers who were facing the prospect of losing their jobs in these coming weeks. But for many of those workers, I'd say the damage has already been done. They've had to endure a lot of stress and worry facing this very insecure future. And I think this is why we have to do better in terms of consultation. What we've been saying is that the bank should be engaging with workers much, much earlier when the decisions are made by the bank to introduce AI, when the bank starts exploring all of the options, testing the technology. That's when we bring workers in, because in this case, what workers proved was actually they knew exactly what was going on in a way that actually the technology people had no line of sight to. And so if we bring workers in early, well before decisions are made, then we can absolutely avoid these types of circumstances where we've got workers that are feeling very worried about their future. And indeed, these workers, we hope and we know many of them are feeling much better and reassured and they want to stay employed. But as I said, the damage has been done and it's had this ripple effect right across the call centre and indeed across many departments at the bank.